A couple newly married is unexpectedly faced with the responsibility of raising a paralyzed child and wonders if they are prepared for the task one day. While their 5-month-old baby is asleep, their puppy Charlie does something so extraordinary that it moves them to tears, leaving them to call it a miracle. The doorbell rang out, shattering the tranquility of their afternoon with its insistent urgency. Tom, absorbed in his coding, barely noticed the sound at first. Meanwhile, his wife Grace, freshly off her shift as a devoted nurse and looking forward to the comfort of their cozy new home on Maple Street, had no idea of the unfolding commotion after a few more persistent rings. Tom reluctantly dragged himself away from his desk as he opened the door. The sight before him shattered his usual rhythm. A distressed young woman stood on the doorstep, holding a swaddled baby tightly in her arms. Her disheveled appearance and the intense urgency in her eyes left no doubt that their orderly, bustling lives were about to be thrown into chaos. Tom was surprised. He had no idea who this woman was or where she came from. She seemed tired and weary, as if she had not slept or eaten anything in days. Tom couldn't help but feel sorry for the poor woman, but most of all, he wanted to know why she was knocking at his doorstep. Part of him assumed that the woman needed some food, and he knew that he could help her, but the words that left her mouth left him dumbfounded. Please, she begged, tears streaming down her cheeks. I can't take care of him anymore. He's yours now. Tom stood stunned, trying to process the woman's words. The baby, a tiny thing, swaddled in a faded blue blanket. C.D. softly, the woman suddenly thrust the baby into Tom's arms, handed him a crumpled letter, and hurried away without another word. It all happened so fast that Tom was unable to react for a few moments. It was like he was in a trance, staring down at the baby in his arms, completely shocked. Then he snapped out of it. Wait! Tom called out, but it was too late. The woman was walking away quickly. Tom thought about following her, but it was as if she had turned a corner and disappeared. He couldn't exactly run around the streets after a mysterious woman while holding a baby. Tom's heart raced as he glanced down at the sleeping infant, feeling a mix of confusion and dread. Grace arrived moments later, her eyes widening at the sight of her husband holding a baby on the doorstep. Her mind went to strange places initially. She thought that Tom had cheated on her, because why else would he have a child? But that thought left as quickly as it entered her mind. She trusted her husband and knew that there would be an explanation without saying anything. Tom handed her the letter. They read it together, their expression growing more somber with each line. The letter explained that the woman, unable to care for the child, knew he would be safe with the Millers. She had chosen them because she knew Grace was a nurse, someone capable of giving the baby the care he needed. The woman had given birth 3 months earlier. She had no family to turn to, and the child's father had abandoned them upon discovering the baby was paralyzed from the waist down. It wasn't her fault yet. Those around her treated her as if she were to blame, as though giving birth to a paralyzed child made her somehow wicked, overwhelmed, and unable to meet the baby's needs any longer. She reached a breaking point through tears. She explained that she needed time to take care of herself. Though deeply apologetic for her decision, she expressed her belief that Tom and Grace could provide the extra care and love her child so desperately required. She further added that she had seen Grace in the hospital during her delivery, and since she had been kind to her, she decided to give her the child. Alongside the letter was another document granting Tom and Grace custody of the baby. However, she hadn't given them the birth certificate, so they had no idea who she was. The couple glanced at each other with wide eyes and then looked back down at the letter, reading through it again to make sure this was real, once they established that this was indeed their reality. Grace's nurturing instincts kicked in. Immediately she took the baby inside, comforting him with gentle whispers. Despite their shock and uncertainty, they instinctively knew they had to rise, too. The occasion, as loving and nurturing individuals, They could never allow a child to suffer. This baby, now utterly alone, needed them more than ever. He was their unexpected blessing, and they vowed to give him all the care and love they could offer. As the weeks went by, the Millers adapted to their new roles as parents. They named the baby Oliver and quickly fell in love with him. It was tough at first. Oliver needed urgent care to assess his health and monitor his condition. They didn't know if his paralysis would stop him from living a full life. Grace took a few weeks off work to take care of Oliver. Fortunately, she had a few vacation days, and the hospital was lenient on maternity leave, so it was not a problem. The couple was relieved when they learned that Oliver's paralysis would allow him to live a full life. Sure, he would never use the lower part of his body, but he had the potential to grow up to be independent. The sleepless nights and endless diaper changes became their new normal after settling in for a few days. Grace and Tom called their attorney and informed him of what had happened. They needed advice on how to proceed. Their attorney took a few days and later told them that since any attempt to locate the birth mother had failed, they could formally adopt Oliver. What's more, they had a signed agreement from the birth mother, meaning they could move on without anyone contesting the adoption. Grace, being the kind woman she was, agreed to legally adopt Oliver. Despite everything, she felt empathy for the woman and her situation, but she still hoped that she would show up one day to reunite with her son. Nonetheless, life had to move on. Little did the couple know that life was about to give them another miracle. In the midst of their new routine, another surprise arrived at their doorsteps. Up, Grace found a small, scruffy puppy shivering in their backyard. One crisp morning, its fur was matted, and it looked lost and scared without a second thought. Grace scooped the puppy into her arms and brought it inside. Tom was initially hesitant and worried about the added responsibility, but Grace's determination won out. They decided to take the puppy to the vet. The veterinarian confirmed that the puppy was a stray, with no identification aside from a minor illness. It was in good health. However, Charlie seemed untrusting of other people, despite their kindness. Charlie appeared wary of people he adored spending time with Grace, but displayed a noticeable animosity toward Tom. The main problem was that the puppy was also restless when Grace was with Oliver. This was not a good sign initially. Tom wanted to give up Charlie since his behavior was becoming problematic, and they could not risk Oliver being hurt. Then, a few days later, Tom took Charlie out for his morning walk, giving them an opportunity to bond. The puppy soon warmed up to Tom. This made the couple think that after a bit of time, Charlie would warm up to Oliver as well. Life became a whirlwind of activity. Grace juggled her demanding job at the hospital with late-night feedings and diaper changes. Tom adjusted his work schedule to help out more at home. The couple found themselves in a delicate dance of balancing work, household chores, and caring for both Oliver and Charlie. Charlie was particularly needy, craving the attention he had never received. On the other hand, Oliver needed more attention to ensure he received enough exercise for his lower limbs. Grace's and Tom's families were very supportive but had busy schedules and couldn't help out too often. When they did come to visit, Charlie would bark aggressively at them. It seemed like Charlie was very protective of his new family, making it known that intruders were not allowed in his space. Despite the chaos, there was an underlying sense of joy. Oliver's infectious laughter and Charlie's playful antics brought light to their lives. Their home was filled with love, even in the most hectic moments. However, the challenges were far from over. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Grace noticed that Oliver had a fever when it did not subside in a few hours. Panic set in as they rushed him to the hospital. However, there was a ray of hope in the middle of this storm after a series of tests. As the doctors came out to the waiting room with some astonishing news. Sorry for the interruption. Before we continue with the story, I kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to this channel. It is very important for us. Thank you very much. They confirmed that Oliver had a rare condition. It seemed that this condition temporarily paralyzed his legs, meaning there was a chance for Oliver to regain movement. The couple was overjoyed. What a miracle! Sadly, the doctor could not tell them exactly when this would happen, but asked them to stay positive and hopeful. He also advised them on the proper way to care for Oliver, since he was susceptible to infections. Grace explained how they had been taking care of Olive. So far, the doctor was impressed and praised them. He then made an appointment for 2 months, hoping the couple would have some good news. By that time, Oliver's condition demanded constant vigilance and specialized care. Grace and Tom alternated staying home to care for him, their hearts aching as they watched their baby struggle. They held tightly to the hope that a breakthrough would come soon, sensing the family's distress. Charlie stayed close to Oliver. His loyal presence provided comfort one night, utterly exhausted. Tom fell asleep on the couch while Grace was out running errands. The baby monitor on the coffee table crackled softly, a watchful sentinel over Oliver's crib. Charlie lay at Tom's feet, his ears perked up, alert to any sound. Despite his initial behavior, he had warmed up to Oliver, and they were now almost inseparable. It seemed as if Charlie understood that Oliver needed special care and had decided to be his protector. A soft thud jolted Charlie awake. He rushed to Oliver's room, his instincts kicking in. The baby had somehow slipped through the vertical slats of his crib while sleeping. He was hanging dangerously off the edge of the bed, the top of his head pressed against the floor. He was in a precarious position, his head barely holding up his body. It was very, very dangerous because Oliver's lower limbs were paralyzed, making it impossible for him to wriggle back onto the crib. His head and neck wouldn't be able to support his weight for much longer. Any second, he would fall completely onto the floor. Due to the angle of his body, such a fall would most likely be fatal. What the puppy did next was a miracle. It was like the little puppy could sense the urgency of the situation moving close to Oliver. He gently tried to nudge him back up towards the crib, with his nose using his body to shield the baby from any further harm. Tom woke up to the sound of Charlie's whines and hurried to the nursery. The sight that greeted him warmed his heart. He got there just in time to witness Charlie's final effort, finally pushing Oliver's body back into the crib. Tom rushed over to where Charlie now stood protectively next to the crib. Oliver was lying down safely again, his tiny hands clutching the puppy's fur. Tears welled up in Tom's eyes as he realized the depth of the bond between Charlie and Oliver. Grace returned home to find Tom and Oliver asleep in the nursery. Charlie curled up beside them. She quietly joined them, overwhelmed with gratitude for their little family, despite the challenges they had each other. And that was enough. The days turned into weeks, and Oliver's condition slowly improved. The temporary paralysis began to recede, and he regained movement in his legs. The Millers were overjoyed, their hearts full of hope for the future. Balancing work, parenting, and caring for Charlie became easier. As they settled into a routine, Oliver continued to grow his laughter and smiles, brightening their days. Charlie remained a steadfast companion. Always by Oliver's side, one sunny afternoon the family gathered in the backyard for a picnic. Oliver, now a rambunctious toddler, chased Charlie around the lawn, his laughter ringing through the air. Grace and Tom watched with smiles, their hearts full. At that moment they realized the inciting event that had brought Oliver into their lives was a blessing in disguise. They had become a family, bound by love and strengthened by the trials they had faced together. But there was one more surprise left in store. A few days later, the doorbell rang. Charlie darted to the door with Oliver playfully toddling close behind. Tom, being the nearest, stepped forward and opened it. The blood drained from his face as he saw who was there, waiting. It was Oliver's birth mother immediately. Tom called out to Grace as soon as she saw Tom's face, and the woman on their doorstep, she knew who it was. Tears trickled from her eyes as she looked at the woman. Her heart broke, believing the woman was here to take Oliver. Grace stepped aside to let the woman and her partner in without any other thought. However, the woman made no move to step inside the house. Instead, she gave Tom some papers and once again walked away. Of course, there was a letter, just like last time. The woman Carla explained that she had gotten the help she needed and was in a good mental state. She apologized for her actions again and wished the couple all the happiness and love they deserved. She also said that it was entirely up to them. If they wanted to tell the child about her, she promised never to contest custody since she had made peace with her decision. She was now getting married and just wanted to close this chapter of her life, Grace thought. Carla's words were a little selfish, but she could not judge her. Having Oliver and going through the hate she experienced had probably traumatized her. Grace wished she could tell Carla that Oliver was not paralyzed anymore. But the ship had sailed. She smiled to herself, knowing she was about to share even more joyful news with Tom. She was 8 weeks pregnant, another miracle in her life to add to her little family as they looked to the future. The Millers knew that whatever came their way, they would face it together. Their journey had taught them the importance of resilience, love, and the unbreakable bonds of family they cherished every moment, with Oliver grateful for his health and happiness. Charlie remained a central figure in their lives, his playful spirit and unwavering loyalty a constant source of joy. The bond between Charlie and Oliver grew stronger. A friendship destined to last a lifetime. With hearts filled with hope and gratitude, they forged ahead, prepared to embrace whatever adventures awaited them. Did you enjoy this story? Do you agree that children and dogs can live together? Can a dog really save a life? Let us know in the comments below. If you like the story, please subscribe to this channel and leave a like. What a heartwarming story. Thank you so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.